I want to start today's episode by saying something that still feels a little uncomfortable to admit out loud. At the end of 2025, I took my first real break in the 10-year history of City Girl Savings. 2 full weeks. No content creation, no admin work, no active social media posting, no just checking in on things that technically could wait. I still showed up for my clients. I feel like those calls are sacred to me, but everything else paused. And what's wild is I'm almost embarrassed to say that out loud. And I think it's because when you have built your identity around being consistent, being reliable, being productive, and being on top of it, choosing rest can feel like you're breaking character. But I want to talk about why I took that break, what it taught me about success and money, and why I think more women, especially high achieving women, need to rethink the way we relate to rest. This is not a productivity episode. It is not a burnout story either. And it's definitely not me telling you to stop working hard. This is about sustainable success and what it actually takes to enjoy the life you're building. So, for most of my adult life, building has felt safe. Building goals, building systems, building momentum, building the next version of myself, building a plan to become that next version. Even my yearly words reflected that energy. I would set words for the year like conquer, pursuit, perseverance. Each one represented growth. Each one represented a mountain to climb. Each one gave me something measurable to work towards. And don't get me wrong, building worked. Building does work. For me, it created success, it created freedom, and it created opportunities that I am deeply grateful for. But here's the part that no one really talks about. When you're always building, you don't actually have to sit with yourself. Progress becomes proof that you're okay, that everything is okay. Productivity becomes reassurance. Output becomes identity. And at some point, recently actually, I realized that I didn't know how to just be inside the life that I had built. When my mom passed away in 2023, I did what so many women do when grief arrives unexpectedly or uninvited. I worked. I threw myself into my business, into my clients, into my goals. Work became my distraction. It was my coping mechanism and my proof that I was still functioning, that I was still alive. In fact, I'm going to try not to tear up here, but I remember taking calls on the day my mom passed away. She had COPD, so I knew it was coming, but I didn't want to just sit and feel it. And I shared that with my clients. I feel like my clients and we have great relationships. And I remember one of them said, like, do we don't need to have this call, Rhea? Like, do you need a beat? And I remember saying no. Like, honestly, I actually want to have this call. That was my way of like putting myself into work and going back to normal and avoiding feeling what I was feeling. And as I've been reflecting, I did the exact same thing when my dad passed away tragically 10 years earlier. I thrust myself into being busy and into getting stuff done. City Girl Savings wasn't even a thing back then, but the pattern persisted. I hadn't learned to sit with myself or my grief back then, and I did it again. I fell into the exact same pattern 10 years later. From the outside, I'm sure everything looked fine, but my body knew the truth long before my mind was willing to admit anything was wrong. For me, I started gaining weight, and the weight gain crept up slowly. And then all of a sudden, suddenly, the exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix was there. The constant feeling of being wired and tired at the same time. my cortisol was high. And my cortisol, let me just add, is still high, but I feel it now and I'm working on it now. My nervous system was dysregulated, and no amount of just pushing through was fixing it. I was running on fumes, not fuel. And the hardest part about all of this was that I was still successful, which I think made it even easier to ignore the warning signs. But for me, 2025 became a turning point. Not because I set a new goal to conquer, but because I finally chose to honor myself outside of work. I prioritized my health, and not just as another box to check or another goal wait to see on the scale, not just another thing to optimize, but truly and honestly as an act of self respect and just love for myself. You know, being sick and tired of being sick and tired, I guess, like that's kind of where I was. I started working with a naturopathic doctor, and I lost 20 pounds after cutting out gluten, dairy, and really putting the focus on my nervous system. I actually started feeling like myself again. I'm still on this journey, I'm still in this process, but I'm feeling better than I have in quite some time. But in spite of all of that, more importantly, something deeper clicked for me. I realized that all the money, freedom, success, all of that, everything that I had built meant nothing if I was too depleted to enjoy it, or too negative, or just too upset, or just too unaware and not present to enjoy it. And that realization changed everything because it really forced me to ask a hard question. What's the point of building a life you're proud of if you don't actually have the capacity to live in it? So at the end of 2025, I made a decision that felt both simple and radical at the same time. I took a break from the business, from the podcast. Really radical, right? I didn't choose to take the break because I was falling apart or things were failing, but because I wanted to interrupt a pattern before it came ultimate burnout. I think I was functioning in burnout for a long time. And I won't sugarcoat this. Rest felt foreign. The first couple of days of that, 2-week break, I was beside myself. Like, what do I do? Let me look at emails. I had moments where my instinct was to just check in, just to open my laptop, to prove to myself I was still productive. But for the first time in my career, I chose rest without feeling like I had to earn it. And that's when I realized just how deeply conditioned we are to believe that rest must be justified. And that brings me to my word for 2026: regulate. Regulate doesn't mean slowing down for the sake of slowing down. It means that my nervous system gets to be calm by default. I don't even know what that feels like. It's been so long that my nervous system has been able to just take a breath. But that's what regulate means to me this year. It also means that joy is woven into my days. It's not reserved as a reward, right? Like I get to be happy just by being. It also means that rest is strategic, not lazy. I'm no longer thinking that I don't deserve rest, or I can rest when I'm done with my work or when I get my tasks done. No, rest is a necessity to keep going, to keep on this mission that I'm on. Regulate means protecting my mornings. Like right now, my morning routine, which lasts a couple hours, is mine. It's all mine. It's what I want to do for myself before the day gets going, before I have to take care of my dogs, my fiance, my work, my clients, all of that. It's protecting my mornings, my sacred time. Regulate is guarding my energy and treating peace like the non-negotiable asset that it is. I know I'm getting older too, so I really recognize the importance of peace now. It is so important. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want to have drama. I don't want to deal with drama. I don't want to be in chaotic situations. I want calm. I want peace. I want serene and grounded. So I am learning that calm is my competitive advantage, that operating from peace and not pressure creates better decisions, better relationships, and better work results. And I think the biggest shift of all, I stopped performing success and I started being present inside it. I worked hard for a long time and I'm really being intentional about enjoying the fruits of my labor, not as a means of giving up or not, working to keep growing or keep reaching the things I want, but to just be present with where I am, what I have done, all I have accomplished. So, if any part of this episode is resonating with you, I want you to just pause and ask yourself a few gentle questions. Where in your life are you earning rest instead of allowing it? Where are you using productivity as proof that you're okay? What would change if calm, not hustle, was your baseline? This isn't about doing less. It's about asking yourself whether the way you're operating is sustainable, because success that costs your health, your peace, your relationships, or your presence eventually asks for repayment, and the bill always comes due. Take it from me. I don't believe in building lives we need to escape from. I believe in building lives that feel supportive, aligned, and spacious enough to enjoy. And if you've been feeling tired but unable to justify slowing down, let this be your permission. Not to quit, not to abandon your goals, but to redefine what success looks like for you in this season of your life. You don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. You don't have to outrun your feelings to be successful. And you definitely don't have to wait for burnout to choose yourself. I'm telling myself the exact same things. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for allowing space for this kind of conversation.